do you think Kim Jong-un wants? If he really cared about his people, he wouldn't have 120,000 people in the gulags, in the death camps. On the other hand, if he's caring about his image in this process, I think he's playing with fire. What do you think?
Well, I think that the North Korean goals have been consistent across all three generations of Kims. And it's useful to remember that the current leader, Kim Jong-un, is the grandson of the creator of North Korea. And that goal has been to unify the Korean Peninsula under North Korean rule. So these negotiations here have almost certainly been intended to try and gain some breathing space for the northern regime under current sanctions, and also perhaps to try and see how far they can push in terms of gaining other concessions from the United States.
Do you think that there are some personal goals involved with Kim Jong-un? He seems to be cut from a slightly different cloth than his dad and his granddad. Do you think that there's something other driving him here, driving him to the negotiation table beyond the reunification of the Koreas?
Well, obviously, the most important thing from Kim Jong-un's personal perspective is simply staying in power. But it's also useful to remember here, he spent a fair number of years growing up in Switzerland.
Right.
So what that means is that he's been exposed to Western media, he's been exposed to Western advertising. I'd suggest that he has a much better understanding of the importance of glitz, glamour, and appearance, showmanship, if you will, than either his father or his grandfather.
He probably has a greater appreciation for democracy and freedom of expression. And the free markets as well, but we don't know that he's necessarily going to embrace it. And certainly if the goal is the reunification of the Korean Peninsula, North and South Korea, under a regime, the totalitarian regime, a dictatorial regime like he has, that certainly runs counter to the goals that we are pursuing right now. And the president, though, is tweeting that North Korea is no longer a threat. No longer a nuclear threat. He's saying, in part, everybody can now feel much safer than the day I took office. There is no longer a nuclear threat from North Korea. Do you think Kim Jong-un, when he reads that, if he hasn't already, is going to agree with that basic statement?
I suspect that Kim Jong-un, if and when he reads that, is probably going to be rather confused about the whole thing, which perhaps is the whole purpose of President Trump's tweets. I'd say that this is an administration that pursues strategic ambiguity, if you will, with a fervor not seen probably in the last 50 years.
The president also playing to Kim Jong-un's ego, clearly. There was a video that was produced, I think it's about 4 or 5 minutes long. It really looked like a movie trailer. The theme was the potential of what Kim Jong-un could accomplish along with President Trump. It was produced very, very well at a lot of cost, no doubt, a lot of taxpayer costs. But obviously, if the result is the denuclearization of North Korea from that one video, great, fine, fantastic, whatever it takes. But my point is that clearly the White House is appealing to the ego of Kim Jong-un. And we know one thing for sure about him. He has stated that he would like to be the Kim who officially ends the Korean War.
That's very true. The devil, of course, is in the details. There's all sorts of ways of ending a war. You can end a war by negotiation. You can end a war by surrender. You can end a war by dictating peace terms in the Blue House of South Korea. I do think, however, that that film was an interesting approach because we know that Kim Jong-un's father, Kim Jong-il, apparently had one of the world's largest film libraries, and Kim Jong-un himself is supposed to be a huge fan of films. So perhaps one of the best ways of approaching him is, in fact, through the medium of film and movie trailers.
Right, and it's fascinating if you take a look at that video, the way they interspersed pictures of President Trump and Kim Jong-un and the potential. And then President Trump at the end, kind of with a little punctuation, points out to Kim Jong-un that look at this through a real estate perspective. I thought that was not only on target, but it was fascinating. But the president is also tweeting about war with North Korea, or the fact that there probably won't be war with North Korea. President Obama said that North Korea was our biggest and most dangerous problem. No longer. Sleep well tonight.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One America News on YouTube. And call your cable provider and kindly demand that One America News is added to your lineup. Call Call and subscribe today.